Welcome back, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us for another wonderful session here for the Hackware Cybersecurity Sales Masterclass. Today, we're going to be talking about the art of the follow-up. So, for those of you that have been joining along with us, I want to say thank you to everybody that's been with us on this journey. It's been so much fun. We've learned so many awesome things on this conversation. And so today is not going to be any different. We're going to be having a lot of fun, having an amazing conversation about an important topic, which is following up. So many of us oftentimes miss the mark on some of the nuances of having a conversation with a customer. And today we're going to talk about one that's really, really, really super important for those that are, maybe just getting into cybersecurity, into the sales game, or, on your managed services, you're starting to think about what does this look like to like really start to like turn the engine on to like really click and make this motor run for, maybe your organization is growing. So really excited about this conversation today. This is probably one of the most impactful conversations that I have with MSPs, is because this is one of the points where the rubber meets the road. And it's really interesting to see how much this makes a difference in the conversation. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation today. So for thanks, as we see everybody jumping in here, we're going to go ahead and start on this little guy here. So let's start at the beginning. We start off every one of these sessions talking about doing something differently. And one of the most important things here is to remember, I remember as a young entrepreneur, you think you could be all things to all people. Well, as we've gone down this journey, we've found that being a jack of all trades is great and a master of none, right? But today we're going to embark on our journey just a little bit more to becoming a master of some. And I'm really excited about this journey that we're on. So again, back to 2023 is the year of education in my book, and education as technology solution providers or managed service providers or MSSPs, managed cybersecurity solution providers. Cybersecurity is complicated, but getting started doesn't have to be. And that's where we're at today. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Now, just like every time that we have you guys join us, today's best question is going to win a prize. We want you to engage with us. We definitely want you to have fun with us. So for those chats that are in here, remember, this is a community-led initiative. We want to make sure that you're having as much fun as we are with this, and we're sharing together. So we also want there to be rewards for sharing. And thank you guys for participating. We appreciate every one of you that supports us in this initiative. And it's because of you that we continue to do this. So today's most active engagement will also get one of our awesome pre-release shirts. Now, Britta, our marketing person, is so amazing at this, and I'm really excited. So for those of you that get the shirts, we're going to be asking you guys to post this on social so you can share some of the cool stuff that we're doing. So that being said, our chat is always live. So for those of you that are joining us, but our question of the day is going to be, hey, what week is it? So for those of you joining us in the chat, I want to know, what week do you think it is? Cybersecurity has a number of different things that go on throughout the year. And unfortunately, today is not Wednesday. Although many of you may see this image and think, is it Wednesday? No, it's not. It is Tuesday. But I'm curious. Post in the chat for those of you that are here. What week is it? Can any of you tell me? And it has to do with the cybersecurity week. So for those of you who are thinking which week it is, I want to give you a little bit of an idea. But if you don't have a good guess, then I'm going to move on, because I think that you may get it right after I post this. But one of the things is, this is a give back initiative, right? We want to make sure that we're giving back to the community. And this week is Data Privacy Week, January 22nd through 28th. And our gift to you this week is, we got it. Somebody got it right on the money. So that being said, we want to give you 5 free social media templates to support you on your initiatives. One of the things that we talked about in educating the end user is making sure that you're sending them content previous to your engagement with them, right? So making sure that you're presenting them with information that's relative to them. And maybe you want to send them some stuff, and we want to support you on that journey. So whether you use us or don't use us, one of the amazing things is that we're going to be sharing this with you. You can go out and click this and upload your logo and actually have a little thing that you could post on social media or send out to your customers as well. So that's our gift to you. But also, if you guys noticed something in that first one, how many of you guys noticed what that camel was looking at? By the way, they can see their data, right? And I love to have fun with this, right? Oftentimes in an office setting, or oftentimes I see a good friend of mine, Matt Lee, always captures an open laptop somewhere, and it says "Lock your laptop, everyone." It's one of the things that we're all a community together, right? And we have to make each other better together. And that's one of the things here is just sharing that information. Sometimes if you see it, say it. It's like one of the things, like just like this camel here, even though we use it as a fun scenario, he's walking through the office. He probably doesn't have any credentials to be there, but he's walking through and he can see a lot of different things, right? He has a unique vantage point. But anyway, I digress. So good to see you, Bill. See you out there. Yep, it's Data Privacy Week, you guys, and we are excited to have you join us. So that being said, let's jump into some of our contents for today. We're going to be talking about a recap. We're going to be looking over what we talked about last week in the customer journey. We're also going to be talking about some of the process for the art of the follow-up. We're going to talk about some follow-up discussions that you can be having, and then also planning and preparation. And one of the biggest things, we talk a lot about the structure of everything that we're doing in this, right? That the process is your program, right? And that's the whole thing that moves the customer forward, and that cybersecurity talk tracks and everything that we've done to this point, and really understanding the steps to success. So really want to dive into that. We have a special gift for you today, so I'll be sharing more about that. So let's do a little recap. We've learned how to make our customers feel comfortable with the change through education. That's the biggest thing, is making them feel comfortable with that change. Education is a huge component of making sure that you're setting the tempo in that conversation. We learned some new talk tracks, which hopefully some of you guys out there are being able to use some of those, and I'd love to hear more of that. We're going to dive into some more talk tracks as we move forward into these master classes. We learned the no, which I think was probably my favorite. I love that whole session about learning the no before you get to the deal table, and understanding and ask the questions that you want about the customers. We got some unique handouts that we're going to be giving to you guys that are relative to that. We also created that simple process for success for building trust. And then we also built a process last week in the soft close, where we talked about the process that's designed to close, right? In the customer journey, and like kind of that process to making it happen. So with all that being said, the biggest thing now we have to do is follow up on it, right? I talked about that, and if you guys remember, since the beginning, and that's one of the biggest things we have to do here. And I'm curious, though, for everyone that's here in the chat, I want to hear from you guys. Like, anyone have any tips on what you do possibly in the conversation with your customers to follow up? Like, what are some of the unique soft touches that maybe you guys are doing that are being successful? I'm curious about that. Because oftentimes, there's a lot of different touch points inside of a conversation with a customer. I often find that, there are a number of different things that we find when we're having conversations with them. And so when we're thinking about following up with a potential person or customer, or, a potential lead, there are just a number of places to follow up. And it's interesting when we think about all of the places that we need to follow up until you really start to take a look at them. And I want to illustrate this just based on what we created from last week with the customer journey. I want to share this with you, because if you take a look at every point here that's illustrated in the customer journey that we shared with you guys, there's a number of different places to follow up. It's not just a one-time thing. It's really, 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 really important to recognize that there are a number of touches within your interaction with a potential customer. And if you're missing some of those, there's a good chance that you might be missing some opportunity. And I just really wanted to use this illustration because we're going to use this in a couple different places as a continuous education component, where we're going to stitch these kind of together so we can actually have a conversation about it. But I like what you're saying, Bill. One of the great follow-ups is email our cybersecurity ebook and other articles, including blogs that you published. I agree with you 100% there. I think that that's a wonderful place to do it, right? You got to illustrate that you are a thought leader and an authority in this particular space, and you really need to pay attention to what it is you're sharing, how you're sharing it. And I agree. I love that your ebook and other articles there, Bill. That's a great point. Back to our goal. The whole goal of this, and we continue down this path, is to make customers feel more comfortable, right? And they need to feel comfortable with your knowledge and expertise. It's our job to educate them and then again build trust and gain the rapport, right? That's the hardest thing to do. But the one big thing I think we always struggle on, and being an entrepreneur and an MSP in this space, is consistency and communication is key to success. And I like what Matt's saying, clear future dates, setting up the next meeting while on the next meeting so you're not waiting to hear back. I like that, Matt. I 100% agree. So let's step into this a little bit as we start to think about our goal and consistency and the communication, right? Here's the why, right? Here's the whole point. Bill mentioned it a moment ago where we're thinking about email marketing and education. It's 71% more effective than cold calling. So for a lot of people that ask me, one, if you had to make some cold calls, how would you do it? And I'm like, I'd rather educate the customer on the front end about the product, program, or service than actually having a conversation and trying to pitch something to them that maybe they are or aren't interested in. Through education, if they're learning through all these steps that you're sending them or information that you're sending them, it's a lot easier to get in the door and have that initial conversation so that when you go to that first meeting with them, 35 to 50% of MSP buyers go to the vendors that reply the quickest and the first. So think about that. So if I'm sending information to a customer and they're like, oh my God, I want to know more about this, and you wait 3 days, somebody else got it. 35 to 50% of buyers are going to vendors that are replying the quickest and the fastest. That's a huge stat. I want you to pin that one for just a second. Also back to the closing meeting moment. Remember, only 2% of sales close at the first meeting, right? So remember, we got to do a lot of effort there to make them feel good. Again, following up. This is the moment where it matters. Matt Wren just mentioned it a minute ago, clear future dates, setting up the next meeting. Like that's the steps to success right there. And again, back to the point here, we have illustrated 5 touch points within this conversation. On average, 5 follow-ups are required to close 80% of deals. Like you can kind of see where they're at here. And that's the whole point. You got to follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. And then there's one that's missing down here. And then there's one last one in the follow-up meeting. This leaves a whopping 98% of sales go to those that follow up. That's a pretty big deal, right? So depending on where you land in this workflow here, it's really important to understand that follow up, even from the chat, everyone that's here today is extremely important. And I don't think I need to push more on that, but more than 50% of customer loyalty is based on the sales experience from calling to closing. Now, why is that important? Because we're, again, back to the process. Like you have to have a process to your program, right? What do you do? But then how do you do it? And how are you interacting with that customer? What is the follow up and the touch points? How are you sure that you're doing it? Because if you don't have a system to do that, and it's just best effort, it's going to be really hard to repeat that over and over and over again. Things are going to happen. Stuff's going to come up. My suggestion to those that are struggling with trying to figure out what I'm even talking about here is just draw out like your from your first conversation to the closing, that whole wireframe journey. Again, back to that customer journey. What does that look like? Your communication chain. Like how many times are you talking to them? It's really important to understand that that's a really key component to what's happening with your customer and whether or not you're going to win the deal. And I've got a question for those of you that are out here. Sounds like, there's several of you here. And again, thanks for joining us. I got a question for you guys. Have you noticed a difference from customers if you follow up quickly and concisely versus if you follow up over time? Post in the chat. Like, just give me an idea. Like, have you ever noticed that if you send a customer a conversation, like, what happens whenever you're talking to them? And then what happens if you send them an email like over time? If you notice that if you send it to them quickly right after the meeting, that they normally reply back to you. Now, I'm not saying every single time, But would you notice that they reply back to you faster than if you sent it 3 days later? It's kind of like this. Well, you waited 3 days to send me an email, so I'm going to wait 3 days to send you an email. Uh, right? I don't know how many of you have seen it. Looks like Raphael says automate follow up when possible. Yeah, I like that idea. For those that have the opportunity to automate it 100%, I think that if you can create an opportunity and you have like a system, a CRM or a partner relationship management tool or something along those lines. We do this now with tickets, right? Anytime a ticket comes in, maybe you guys have an autoresponder that says we received your ticket and we're working on it. Well, hey, we thank you for the meeting that we had, and now we're sending you back some information. Reagan says they love the meeting follow up right after. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Whenever I'm actually having a conversation with a customer and or a vendor, and they send me something instantaneously right after, it's like I'm important to them. You know, Reagan says, "Yep." Then add a drip campaign right after. Yep. Raphael, create templates in your Outlook. Oh, I like that idea. That's a smoking idea right there. You know, and that's what I really think is really important. It's that point of presence right at the moment that you're having the conversation. Like you got to make that customer feel like they're important to you. If they're not, then know that they're going to feel that, right? So if you're not communicating quickly back, if you're not setting that step up, it's really important. Mike Milano says, Matt, spot on. I like to ask, when are you looking to make that decision? What happens if you go past that date? That way I can keep the accountability. I agree, Mike, 100%. Like we have to be accountable to ourselves. We mentioned that in the previous classes that if you're going to get to this point, you have to be accountable for what your actions were and saying what you said in the beginning. And again, making yourself accountable to making this deal important. I've said this a couple of times, and I've mentioned this to my sales teams in the past when I was building my MSP. That if you came in with the no, if you walked out with the no, excuse me, if you walked out with the no, it's likely because you walked in with it. And some of that no was I didn't follow up, and I never had intention because I was too busy, and I really wasn't focused on this meeting. There's a lot of different things that what I call burn the lead. And I like what you guys are all saying here because I 100% agree with you. Like that point of presence right after is really, really, really important. So I'm staying here for a minute because I want you to understand how important it is as we step forward in this process. I want us to really understand a little bit more about that. So here's a process during the sales success, right? So you remember the customer journey that we were talking about. Now we're having a conversation about, cybersecurity. We're talking to our customer, we're asking lots of questions, and I want to give you guys something, which is the 5 steps, right? So while you're asking your questions, make a note so that you can follow up with relevance. Like, pay attention. Like, the whole point about talking to your customer is listening, right? Again, some of those stats that we've heard about, right? Customers want to hear a person listen to them. They want you to ask questions and they want you to listen. Make notes. If you could see my desk, I make notes about pretty much everything, every conversation that I have, because there's always some sort of follow-ups in it. I want to send that email and say, hey, based on our conversation, here's the follow-up, right? Number two, while understanding their needs, again, back to the front, we ask questions about their needs. While understanding their needs, we need to make notes and address them in the follow-up, right? That's two different things. I heard what you said. Now here's was the need that you actually had. Like I'm really helping making sure you understand that I understand what you really need and how it matches up. And that's how we want to clarify how technology is being used so that we can make sure to build a plan and reply back. Like, hey, based on that conversation, here's what we said. Here's what you said. Here's what we said. Here's the way we talked about it. Here was your big need. Here's the way we're going to meet that need. And then number 4, we need to make sure that we're clear on the next step. I think that we just heard that a moment ago from Matt. That was amazing, right? Matt said, let's make sure that we follow up at the next meeting. We want to make sure that we're clear on that. Whatever the next step is the findings and recommendations, the QBRs, the contracts, other meetings, whatever the discussion may be. We want to make sure that we point that out. And then in step 5, now again, remember, all these points here are follow-ups. Even though there's part of a larger follow-up, which is the email, step 5 is the thank you email with the notes from the meeting with full details on next steps, right? So we got, the 4 steps of the 5th step there that is a combination of all of them. And I think that that's where it's really important and impactful. So for those of you that don't have a plan today, I wanted to put this together so that you could. And one of the really great things that we're going to be sharing with you is we actually did this as well. And if we go back to that other view, um, we are actually going to give you the 5 steps approach to every part of the customer journey, right? The pre-sales, the during the sale, the post-sale, and there's one more here, which is also the non-sales event. And we are going to give you this today, and this is our gift to you because we know that not everyone starts off with the plan. We know not everyone starts off knowing how to actually follow up with customers and have a program that actually is successful. And we understand that many of us are on different parts of our journey, whether it's at the beginning or it's in the middle, or maybe even for some of us, it's at the end of our journey in business or in life. And that's the one big thing is that there's never too late to start building a plan for success. And we wanted to be able to share that an easy way to do it. 5 steps, really simple. You'll notice I like to think in terms of five because I think that makes a lot of, when you're at a meeting, you can think, okay, did I do step one? Did I do step two, step three, step four, step five? You can kind of count under the table to make sure you did those things. And sometimes the flow of the conversation will go to a point where you don't have to do that. And over time, you'll become more comfortable with that. And I think that, for those of you that are having those conversations and using this program and thinking about it and using this and stitching it into a way that is meaningful to your business, it'll become even more, right? It may become a 7 to 10 to 20 step plan. But I'm just, we wanted to share this with you because we felt like these were really meaningful steps to general success in these areas. And so, as we talk about this really quickly, one of the things that I want to make sure that we all understand is more than half of business customers are driven not by what you sell, but how you sell it specifically. We're all out there talking about cybersecurity. We're all trying to educate the world on this new modern era of risk. And one of the big things that we need to help our customers more elegantly understand is that we have a process to mitigate risk in their business and that we have a thoughtful use of technology program that actually helps them move away from risk. Now, we can never fully ever 100% mitigate the risk, right? And we know is an opportunity. Threats are always coming as fast as they can. But what we need to do is illustrate the plan and the process for helping them move their businesses forward. It's not about the tips, it's not about the gadgets, it's not about the tech. It's about your plan. Now, yes, they do. You definitely need to have a comprehensive stack. Don't get me wrong. You definitely need to do your vendor due diligence, but most of us that are in the managed services or technology or MSSP space, we all kind of know the tech part, right? I'm taking for granted that some of you are very specialized and do know about tech or do have at least staff that are supporting these new modern tactics and techniques for supporting our modern cybersecurity ecosystem. But here's the thing: when we're having the business conversations, it's how we're doing it. It's the process in which you're showing me being successful with your tools, whatever they are. Now, one of the best things that I would do here at this particular moment was illustrate the why about the tool. So if you guys are doing vendor due diligence, stitch that in and say, here's the reasons we made the decisions around these types of tools. And here's the reasons why. I think that that's very important for customers to understand that you did due diligence to a point because I'm about to trust you with my business in a major way. And you really need to feel really confident here. And I think that it's really important for us to just recognize that we do have a responsibility to our customers to make sure that we have a process for their success and to our employees because ultimately they're the ones that are supporting them. So, that being said, I want to ask another question here. And again, I think that now that we've asked it once before, have you noticed when you respond to someone quickly after a meeting, how they'll likely respond back? Flip the quarter real quick. Have you ever asked waited like a week to respond to a customer or ask them a question about their program or product or business? Let's flip that on the other side. What happens when you wait? I had this experience the other day when I was buying car parts. I restore classic vehicles as kind of something that I do because I'm a builder at heart, whether I'm building businesses or software or process or procedure. I also like to build cars. And I remember sending out a request for quote on a Friday late in the day, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm trying to get this stuff back. I'd like to make a purchase this weekend. If you could just send me back the details, I'd really appreciate it." Friday about 2 o'clock. Now I'm expecting that a salesperson was on the phone. We're like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm going to send this to you right now. I'll have it to you before the end of the day. And if you buy it by the end of the day, it'll ship out." And I was like, "Sweet, sounds like exactly what I need." They didn't get it to me by the end of the day. And I had calls with 3 or 4 other people, and some of them were getting them to me super fast. Well, Monday came, and guess what arrives in my email? I got the quote from that individual that said they were gonna get it out, and they're like, "Hey, I got delayed. Sorry on Friday. It was queued up, but here it is. Sorry, that it's delayed." What happened? Well, I responded back, "I apologize. This was the one that I really wanted, but unfortunately, I made another decision and landed up going a different route." And it's interesting that when you think about how long when it takes conversations to take place, the more time we let set out behind them, the less important it becomes to that customer. And it's really that detachment mechanism, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I'm not that important to them, and a lot of things happen psychologically whenever that happens. I know many of you here today have probably had that scenario happen. And, if you're interested in sharing some of those stories about when people have made you wait, how did it make you feel? Right? What does that do when you think about that? And then realize that if it makes you feel that way, that if you're doing it to somebody, then it probably makes them feel the similar way. And so I had to think about that because I was like, okay, I see it. But I felt bad for him too at the same case. And I think that many people do, especially if you have a really great program and I really want to do business with you. Maybe you were a little bit more expensive, but man, it sounded like you really had it together. And then at the last moment, like some of those games this weekend, you just missed it, and it was just that last thing you had to do and you just missed it because it was, something was going on. And again, that's the whole point of having a process that you can rely on. And I think that the next point here that I want to make is slow down a little bit, slow down. We live busy lives. But one of the things that we do a lot of is we like to do too much. And when we do too much, nothing is done well. And I want to point this out that in order to create a really effective process, you got to just slow down. Pay attention to what you're doing, make it matter. Every one of those people that invite you to have a meeting is a possible opportunity, and you want to make the most out of every one of them. So, capturing all the details and following up is probably one of the most important things you can be doing. Don't rush. I know there's a lot of fires going on. For those of you that are just, out there and you're starting off on your MSP journey or your cybersecurity journey and you're a smaller shop, and I get it. I've been you before. I know what it's like to grind. I know what it's like to live a 24/7 business lifestyle where you're just always going. Find time to be deliberate on your sales and your positioning of your product to your customer. It means a lot, and you will stop having to push as hard if you slow down a little bit. I know it doesn't sound like Quan, I need a lot of sales right now. And it's like, look, failing to follow up on it, you can miss out on 98% of your sales. And I just want to make sure that you understand that it's really important to just calm down a little bit. Iron out your process, Raphael. I love what you're saying. If you have a solid process and consistency, the game will come to you. You're right. And that's the whole point. A lot of times we have conversations with customers really quickly, and we're like trying to find out, let me just see who's going to say yes to me in some meaningful way. Honestly, probably everyone's saying yes to you. It's just they're waiting to see if you have a process for success and can I see it. But if you're just hurrying up and you're just trying to just sell things to people and just like, hey, do you want a firewall? Do you want this? Do you need that? You may miss it. A lot of people, this is a very delicate moment. Again, back to the beginning where cybersecurity, I'm entrusting my business to you. I don't think we understand the impact of the statement that we're making here or we're asking the customer to make. We're asking them to get in a relationship with us to allow us to protect your business. I'm going to allow you to protect my business, you better well have a good program for success. Because if I don't hear all the things that I need to, and I can't get in touch with you quickly, and you don't respond fast enough, maybe yes, we may consider those needy customers, but I may also be looking just to vet you out a little bit. And this is the point where I think you either win or lose. And I think you have to be very, very, very careful here, and you have to be very constant and deliberate about how you do it. So that being said, design your program to be the plan, right? Make sure that you're programming to protect them from whatever it is, and make sure you spell it out and make sure it's measurable. Again, we said this in the last meeting. We said that in the meeting before that. We said it in the meeting before that. All of the cybersecurity master classes have had a nuance of making your process the program. Now, I know I keep talking about cybersecurity sales, but at the same token, there are underlying nuances that stitch it all together, and you want to make sure that you're doing those things for your customers. And so, let's do this. Let's go to some quick stats because I'm curious here. Remember if we talked about it last week. For some of you that weren't with us, I want to iterate these things. 69% of customers say, "Listen to my needs." 61% say, "Don't be pushy and give me relevant information." 51 say 51% say they want salespeople to respond in a timely manner. Now, if we think about the 69% that say just listen to my needs, is they're telling us what we want. I often use this example whenever I'm having a conversation with managed service providers, when I'm asking them about how they're positioning their program and service, and I say, how does what you do stack up against what the customer needs are? And then we do a little bit of an exercise saying, okay, what is the customer needs? Let's just kind of spell out the top 5 needs that they have. Now, are those needs something that your offering delivers? And if so, let's ask questions that are about their needs that relate back to your offering. This is the whole point around the plan, right? This is where it makes it really easy. And I've had so many MSPs say, well, it can't be that easy. And I'm like, hey, you have a magic 8 ball. It's in your hand. I already know your needs, and if I make my program spell out how it works for your needs, then obviously we're a good fit, right? There's no one that could say yes to that or no to that, excuse me. Yes, we're a good fit. That's what you're looking for, right? Okay, sounds great. But do you have like the 61%? Don't be pushy, right? Again, what Raphael said, if you have a process for consistency, the game will come to you. I like that because it's not about pushing them to do something. I'm not trying to push you. Remember back to when we talked about talk tracks, I'm not using fear to move you in a direction. I'm using you being comfortable with me to move toward me, right? I'm not pushing you towards something or away from something. I'm using comfort to pull you in. And that's where you want to be really, really diligent about this, is to not use those fear tactics. Again, back to, our talk tracks. For those of you who didn't see that one, that was a really good one. And again, back to 51% say that they want salespeople to respond in a timely manner. I would bet that number is much higher. Now, I appreciate HubSpot and these stats, but I will say every single person wants to be responded to quickly. I don't know, and in the chat, if you do, you guys prefer if someone responds like next week? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're really busy people, and you're like, look, if you got back to me in 7 days, I'd be happy. Um, I don't really think that that's the case. I think that all of us want, like, I just talked to you. I'm excited about your product. I'd really like to see that follow up. Like, I'd like to see us keep moving on this path, right? Um, so I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts on that in the chat. I'd love to see them. But again, remember, we're giving awards for most active today. So, oh, look here. Look, Lamont popped in here. It's time to stop selling cybersecurity service and start managing cybersecurity risk. Cybersecurity risk is a business risk arm of your team. And let's see here. It's covered up to level up the security conversation to address your client's business outcomes. 100%. I agree 100%. It's all about the business outcome. And I think he was commenting on the last slide, and we might be a little delayed on some platforms, but I love that because you're right. We do need to be having business conversations. A lot of the success of my MSP was just that, right? It was just having those business conversations about what's important. I understand your needs. Here's how my program integrates into this is my process to solve your need. And, it was really simple and straightforward. It was not like there's a lot hard to that. And Reagan says the money is the follow up they're expecting to give you. If they are excited, give them what they want. I agree 100%. Give it to them. The follow up is the piece that we need to be working on. And I think that it's your point, it's making it measurable, right? Yeah, I think it's really important for us to realize that those points of follow up happen along the journey and the whole way, right? Spelling out your process is I'm doing something here. And it says here, Tara says, I like the fast first follow up, but some time to breathe before the second. Yeah. See, this is the whole point, right? Is understanding the cadence of the conversation of, really what the customer wants. And the really cool thing you can do is you can ask the customer, how do you want us to communicate? Like, is this really quick? Do you like it? Again, back to asking the right questions, right? And I like this here. What do we get here? Raphael says SMOF, sales, marketing, operations, financials. If you're easily explain how what you're creating creates meaningful impact on these areas and the bottom line cost, it becomes much easier to get to the next step. 100%. I agree. Every one of these points is a follow up. And on this slide here, implementation, risk remediation, exposure, opportunities, timelines, education. There are follow-ups in every one of those, right? So for those of you that have sales teams, this is a great opportunity for you to find these areas to stitch in maybe social media content, or maybe it's an email drip campaign, or maybe it's an opportunity to have conversations. Tiffany says here, Reagan, I totally agree with your close rate. Oh, I totally agree. Your close rate goes up when you follow up. And I like that. Close rate up when you follow up. I like it, Tiffany. And so from that, when we're having these conversations, I want to make sure that you guys understand that, again, back to the beginning, people buy plans that demonstrate success. If you have a plan, they don't have to see your follow-up plan, but I bet you they would love to see your communication plan. And we talked about that in the customer journey. What does your follow-up plan look like? Do you have one? Do you not have one? And that's the reason I feel like a lot of us, and as we start off our journey, again, that's the whole point of the cybersecurity masterclass, is there's a lot of things that we don't know how to do as techs. There's a lot of things we don't know how to do as young entrepreneurs. For those of us that may be really advanced in our journey and have massive sales teams and all these other things, there's still some tips in here. But there is a lot of us that are not there at that large size and still starting off. And that was the whole point of our masterclass here, was to really help out those that are starting off their journey and figuring out how to crack the code on cybersecurity sales success. I think that there's a lot of things that we can do here, but I think the one thing is how do you demonstrate success? And again, back to measuring and measurable. Everybody in the chat sounds like everyone's of the same mindset here. It's really making sure that we're doing the right things and following up quickly. And that's where I think that you're really capitalizing, and you're just striking that T and dotting that I right after that meeting when you did everything you said you were going to do, and then you deliver on it right after in a quick way. Like, that tells me that that you're scheduled right. You're not frantic. You're not overwhelmed. Like, you got a good process for this. And I feel comfortable trusting my business to you. And that's what we really want to do. You remember in the beginning, we say we want to make them feel comfortable about change. This is a big change. Any change that we talk about in every one of those steps that we just looked at a moment ago is change. And I need to know that I trust you. So that being said, one of the big things, and again, I'm going to reiterate what we talked about last week for those of you that weren't with us, was here's where it got real, right? Follow-up's a real thing. If you don't do it right, you might as well stop. Like, if you're not following up, we just saw 98% of deals are lost on follow-up. So like, if you don't have a process for this, and I know a lot of people get really frustrated. It's like, Juan, I'm trying to sell. I don't really know why they don't close. And I'm like, so what's your follow-up game look like? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, how are you following up? And they're like, I just wait for them to call me back, like, to set the next meeting. And I'm like, whoa, hold on, what? No. We gotta take the lead on this thing. So if you have a QBR or a TBR process, make sure that you start it as soon as you're having a conversation. I know some of you were with us last week. So I like to start at the beginning. Like as soon as we start, like here's our process. Like this is how we do things. It's this is so you put them into that cycle from the get go. Don't leave things to chance to be like, oh well, I'm going to go through this and then just be like, let's see if it works, and then I'm going to bolt on a process at the back end of it just in case because I don't want to waste time. Get in the cadence of like making that your mantra, like just really going through that every single time so that they feel like, man, every time I get in here with them, like they always got it together. Like the moment I met them, like it's just been great. If you don't have a plan that's measurable, we need to go back to the drawing board, right? And we gave you some of that plan in the customer journey. And I want to make sure that you go back to the talk tracks for those of you that are jumping in today a little late. Go through those things and just go and watch them again. There's a lot of great resources that are there that will help you through to create that program and plan. And again, also in the MSP Owner's Handbook, there's the QBR template that if you guys need one of those, go grab one. It's on the website, the mspownerhandbook.com. It's free. Like there's no cost there. So you don't have to like go and retool something. Um, and again, remember the know that you're going to get if you don't have a plan is that I don't really see myself being successful with you. Like, yeah, God, I need more, right? I'm trusting my business to you. I need to see more. So make sure your plan is real and that you can clearly articulate it. Like you need to be able to spell this thing out. Like I want to see it. Whenever I take a diet plan, I mentioned this a number of times. I want to know when to lose weight, right? Like that's what I want to know. Like I'm gonna ask around, be like, "Hey, did you lose weight on that plan?" Yeah, I did. Like it was great. It was like a little bit of a pain, but I did, and it was good. Like you just got to follow the plan and it'll work. Same with yours. Like, do you have a plan? Do you have references? Do you have customers that they can talk to about your plan and how it works? Make sure that you do that. Make sure that you got a plan. And I just want to hit that button real quick so that everybody knows. So, the resource that we're giving out today is the follow-up process, right? We want to make sure that you connect you with your customer before, during, and after the sale. Um, One of the big things that we want to make sure is that you have a 5-step process. So for everyone that's joining us here today, we're going to be posting this in our Hackware Cybersecurity Masterclass LinkedIn group. So this resource will be there too for you who haven't joined us. I'm going to put the link in the here in just a little bit. But I want you guys to have a process for following up, even if it's just really quick glances and you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to read this real quick. Form your own opinions of the process that works the most for you, but take a second to spell it out. This will only just help you in your business, but it also help your employees. Because the more that everybody knows what your process is for customers, they can also articulate it back. Hey, by the way, this is our process for X, Y, and Z. This is how we do things. If you got a sales team, you got a marketing team, they're having conversations with customers. It's important that you understand and share this internally. Like this is probably one of the funnest things to make is your processes on how you do things and then going to talk to customers about your special sauce on how you make the sausage or the champagne or whatever it is, the cybersecurity offering that you may have. This is the best part about this is really helping them understand more and really sticking to that plan and then create your automated components that may stitch into this. So like a lot of people have been mentioning automation, creating those email templates. If you got a workflow, inside of ConnectWise where you're creating those or inside of Kaseya or Autotask or whatever system you're using, whatever it is, I don't know. There's a number of them that are out there. Make sure that you're doing that so that you actually have a process to keep things going. Find a system that works for you. And I think that it'll be really effective. So as we circle around here, one of the big things, and Bill will make sure that you get those links today for sure. For those of you that are going to join us, we're going to send you out a message on LinkedIn after with all the information too. So just know that you're going to get that. Some of the resources that we are here that we have available to you. Again, Tiffany just posted in the Cybersecurity Masterclass group. For those of you that want to jump over and join, please join us. We're having open conversations about cybersecurity sales, about the things that are going on. We're sharing resources, and it's a community-led event. So like you guys joining in is very important to us, and we want to make sure that you guys have time to actually come over and learn and spend time sharing. I'm all about sharing, as you well know. That's why we do these things. But we want to make sure that you have these resources today. The yellow, last week's hot one was the customer journey. We had huge success with that. So that you guys, if you guys want help with the customer journey map, reach out to us. That's what it's about. We're about here to help. 5-step plans for follow up is the one that we're giving out today that you just saw. And we want to make sure that you have these resources available to you so that you can actually do everything that we talk about doing. And in summary, we want to make sure that we stop, slow down, take your time, plan to win. I know for a lot of games this weekend that you guys might have watched that were on the TV, if you noticed, everybody went into those games with a different kind of plan. It's the same game they've been playing all year long, but there's a special kind of plan for that special kind of game. And every one of your customers is that special kind of game. So you got to go in and you got to understand that a lot of effort goes into watching how other teams play, but a lot of things go into asking a lot of questions on how can we be that team. Our scenario in this one here is how do we win that customer? What are the things that we need to be doing to win that customer? One of the biggest ones we learned today was follow up quickly. And the second one is communicate often. Many customers don't just want to hear from you one time. I always say there's an always win mentality, whether you either win a deal, you learn a lesson, or you build a relationship. And that's how we always win, right? It was a W. It was very important to understand. I wanted everyone to feel like we always won because either you win a deal, which is the easiest, or you learn a lesson. You take that information back and you go and figure out that's the play of the tape. You go and look at that deal, you figure out what I went wrong. How did I lose that deal? What was the thing that I need to be doing in there? And then I build a relationship. And that relationship is maybe I screwed up today. That's okay. You're not going to win all the time. Maybe I just didn't know enough at that moment to win that customer. Maybe it wasn't the right time for that. Maybe it was a lot of different things, right? We understood that and know the no. But the most important thing is building that relationship because one day they're going to need you and you want to be there for them. And at that point is when you want to follow up as fast as you possibly can. And that's the whole point of this today is to make sure that we are following up and we are doing all the right things. But there's something fun and exciting on the horizon, you guys, and I can't wait to tell you about it. So I think I mentioned it in the past, but I am super pumped to announce today as part of this continuing education series that we are going to be doing this masterclass live on stage at IOTA. So for those of you that want to join us, we would love to have you in person. I think we can have a lot of great, meaningful conversations. Please do me a favor. The link is here. Please join me. The code, is right here in front of you for those of you who want to register as an attendee to come and be with us. It's in Phoenix, February 16th and 17th. For those of you that are going to be able to attend, we would love to have you there with us. We're going to be doing a masterclass live on stage and broadcast on LinkedIn Live on our channels. So for those of you that can't join us physically, I promise you we will be talking about this, and we're going to be talking about building an MSSP, the conversion of MSP to MSSP, and some of the steps to success. So I really want you to be able to participate in that. And for those of you that are able to join us, I would love to have you. And with that, I want to make sure that as we circle the end here, that we come back to the very end, and I want to make sure that you connect with us. You saw the LinkedIn Master Group class in there. We want to make sure you connect with us there. But also do me a favor, connect on LinkedIn. And also connect via hackware.com/MSP for those of you that want to get in touch with us. We definitely want to be here for you, and we want to make sure that we're able to make an impact together. So with that, we're going to come back to the main screen here, and I want to say thank you for everybody and for everything. Thank you for joining us here today. I can't wait to see you next. Rick, remember, we don't have a class in 2 weeks. We're going to jump to February. So do me a favor. Just know that we're going to be putting some promotion around that. So for those of you that are interested, we want you to join us. And until then, joining us inside of the Masterclass group on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for being with us today. I hope you learned a lot. I hope that you are implementing these processes and procedures into your business. And I can't wait to see and hear about how you've grown your business too. Thank you so much, everybody. We're signing off for today, and we'll see you soon.